2. The Socialist Revolution and the Struggle for Democracy. The Socialist Revolution is not a single act. It is not one battle on one front, but a whole epoch of acute class conflicts, a long series of battles on all fronts, that is to say, on all questions of economics and politics. Battles can only end in the expropriation of the bourgeoisie. It would be a radical mistake to think that the struggle for democracy was capable of diverting the proletariat from the socialist revolution, or of hiding it, overshadowing it, etc. On the contrary, in the same way as there can be no victorious socialism that does not practice full democracy, so the proletariat cannot prepare for its victory over the bourgeoisie without an all-round, consistent, and revolutionary struggle for democracy. It would be no less a mistake to remove one of the points of the democratic program, for example, the point on the self-determination of nations, on the grounds of it being quote, impracticable or, quote, illusory under imperialism. The contention that the right of nations to self-determination is impracticable within the bounds of capitalism can be understood either in the absolute economic sense or in the conditional political sense. In the first case, it is radically incorrect from the standpoint of theory. First, in that sense, such things, for example, as labor money, or the abolition of crisis, etc., are unpracticable under capitalism. It is absolutely untrue that self-determination of nations is equally impracticable. Secondly, even the one example of the secession of Norway from Sweden in 1905 is sufficient to refute the impracticability in that sense. Thirdly, it would be absurd to deny that some slight change in political or strategic relations of, say, Germany and Britain might today or tomorrow make a formation of a new Polish, Indian, or a similar state fully practicable. Fourthly, finance capital in its drive to expand can freely buy or bribe the freest democratic or republican government and the elective officials of any, even an independent country. The domination of finance capital and of capital in general is not to be abolished by any reforms in the sphere of political democracy, and self-determination belongs wholly and exclusively to this sphere. The domination of finance capital, however, does not in the least nullify the significance of political democracy as a freer, wider, and clearer form of class oppression and class struggle. Therefore, all arguments about the impracticability, in the economic sense, of one of the demands of political democracy under capitalism are reduced to a theoretically incorrect definition of the general and basic relationships of capitalism and of political democracy as a whole. In the second case, the assertion is incomplete and inaccurate. This is because not only the right of nations to self-determination, but all the fundamental demands of political democracy are only partially practicable under imperialism, and then in a distorted form by way of exception. For example, the secession of Norway from Sweden in 1905. The demand for the immediate liberation of the colonies that is put forward by all revolutionary social democrats is also impracticable under capitalism without a series of revolutions. But from this it does not by any means follow that social democracy should reject the immediate and most determined struggle for all these demands. Such a rejection would only play into the hands of the bourgeoisie and reaction. But on the contrary, it follows that these demands must be formulated and put through in a revolutionary and not in a reformist manner, going beyond the bounds of bourgeois legality, breaking them down, going beyond speeches in Parliament and verbal protests, and drawing the masses into decisive action, extending and intensifying the struggle for every fundamental democratic demand up to a direct proletarian onslaught on the bourgeoisie. That is to say, up to the socialist revolution that expropriates the bourgeoisie. The socialist revolution may flare up not only through some big street demonstration or hunger riot or a military insurrection or a colonial revolt, but also as a result of political crises such as the Dreyfus case or the Zabrin incident, or in connection with the referendum on the secession of oppressed nations, etc. Increased national oppression under imperialism does not mean that social democracy should reject what the bourgeoisie call the utopian struggle for freedom of nations to succeed, but on the contrary, it should make greater use of the conflicts that arise in this sphere too as the grounds for mass action and for revolutionary attacks on the bourgeoisie.